From San Diego, this is the Fox 5 News at 1.
As Veterans Day approaches, we take the time to honor those who have served our country and to talk to them about their experiences and the effects that war can have, including PTSD.
And joining us now is retired Army Colonel Chaplain Robert Blessing and photojournalist Howard Lipin from the San Diego Union-Tribune to talk a little bit more about dealing with PTSD and, of course, your journey and everything that you've seen. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us. Of course, thank you for your service, as always. Let's talk a little bit about your 2 combat tours in Iraq. Give us a little bit of an idea about that and, of course, your work there.
Biggest issue is the violence was all around you. Anybody who deployed to Iraq, whether they were on the base or on patrols, faced the incoming fire, so they were all the casualties of war in some sense.
2 years of that, though. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as a priest, an Episcopal priest, coming out green as a young chaplain, thought I was young, but I was older than most of the guys I served with. I could have been their dads, but as a pastor, you deal with death, and it's holy and sacred, and it's kind of beautiful as people prepare to die. But when you lose them next to you, or you go into the hospitals in Baghdad, and you're there to describe who they are, to get the clearance from the commander to let them go, it's no longer this holy sacred thing. It's outrageous, it's horrible, and that begins to play with your heart, your mind, and your soul.
So talk to us about the effects that that's had on you when it comes to PTSD and when it comes to someone like you whose job it is to help others. And now suddenly you're the person who's on the other side and needing and requiring the help.
Well, you had to suck up in the Army, as you do in any branch. You drive on. And so I was there for the guys as much as I possibly could. There were times coming back from saying goodbye or, being involved in the memorial ceremonies and returning and having to go into the chapel or go into the shower and just cry and sob. And I began to realize I was beginning to get physiological reactions from the sorrow. More than the violence was the loss, the continual loss and sorrow of this wonderful battalion I was a part of, the 1st of the 184th Infantry. They were in southern Baghdad and they were fighting hard battles. That's the one I really distinctly remember. And so it was in that journey that I had to come to terms with, I thought, I'm a pastor, I'm older, I'm mature, I should be able to handle all this. And I couldn't. And it caught up with me and it bit me physically, and then of course the emotional, mental stuff that affects your relationship with your family. My wife and my kids paid for it. My relationship with God was challenged, but I really feel it moved to a greater point of strength. But it also was what it did to me. And there's a process for healing and recovery.
And there's something very isolating about that. And they often say those wounds you don't see when they come back from war. That's truly what it is. People are suffering, and there are many people, especially in our community, that come back from deployments. This is a military community, and many people are suffering. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now. You understand the effects of PTSD and how that can affect a person. Talk to us about what you're doing now.
Well, the VA does great things in its therapies and in its meds, but I realized there's the moral and spiritual injury that develops. You were raised to be kind, to turn the other cheek, to care for your neighbor. And here it goes counter to all of that. And so now I realize you got to heal those old connections that were part of who and what you were. And so I take guys up on walks on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've done the Camino, the 500-mile journey in northern Spain, and I'm going to take a group of chaplains in the future with some others that hopefully will join us to walk for 500 miles. And you have this time to reflect, to live in the present, because when your body hurts from walking a long distance, you don't live in the past, you're in the present. And the gift of pilgrimage or walk is that you can reflect, you can be quiet, you can reflect, you can come to draw some conclusions about your life that will enable you to at least move in the process of healing and health. And that's what I love doing now in the Pacific Crest, and then beach for those who can't handle the mountains. And than in the Camino in northern Spain.
Howard, I want to ask you about your piece. It's going to be on Sunday in the Union-Tribune. Give me an idea of what you have coming out on Sunday on Colonel Blessing and your relationship, what you've learned from this story, how long you guys have been developing this story.
Well, I met the Colonel on the day after Christmas 2004 when he performed his last service at Good Samaritan Episcopal Church in University City. And it was right before, a couple days later, he deployed for the very first time, and we were doing a story on an Army chaplain going to war. And what it taught me is that you don't have to be in combat to have PTSD, to be affected by it. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's in your psyche, it's in who you are. And everybody, whether they admit it or not, is affected in some way, shape, or form. And it was an honor for me to be able to, with his cooperation, he's an unwilling subject. He didn't look for this. I found him to tell his story, because his goal is one goal and one goal only, and that is to help others. To that end the Colonel wants people to reach out to him, and they can do so at RBLESS, RBLESS 1958, which I think is the year you were born, at gmail.com.
Okay.
And as far as the Union-Tribune's part of it is there is a video that will be online, a short documentary. It's about 10 minutes long that I and several other people that I work with produced and put together. With talking about his journey, he gets very deep into the whole PTSD issue and suicide and some other issues a lot of other issues that go along with it. That will be on our Union-Tribune, San Diego Union-Tribune.com website later this afternoon. It will be on social media platforms right sometime during the weekend. It will be published on Sunday in the printed paper, and it will be online shortly there. It's about the same time on Sunday morning. The video will be embedded into John Wilkins, the writer, a wonderful writer. His story will be online at that time too, with one goal in mind, and that is to help.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is what will people get from this that maybe they didn't understand before?
I hope the public takes away that honor the vet in a way that you don't think they need to be honored. The vet who was a clerk, realize that clerk probably has some sort of PTSD because he or she may not have been in combat, but they know somebody. Their bunkmate may have been a casualty. Everybody's affected by it. And then when they come home, everybody that is in their life is affected by it. And so don't overlook that, but applaud them, and let's as a society do more for them, because that's the bottom line, is help comes in many ways.
I think it's really interesting that you guys talking about this is something obviously we understand you don't see. You don't necessarily understand. And you and I were talking before we came on set about, when you want to thank a veteran or you want to thank someone for their service, it's okay to say thank you for your service, but what can they do to really connect and understand and be a part of really truly saying thank you and understanding what's going on?
Once you've gone beyond the thank you for your service, I think better would be maybe thank you for the sacrifice that you and your family made, because it isn't just, as you know, it isn't just the soldier, it's the family that paid a price. But what I think, if you can get beyond that basic, simple conversation, is to go to the place where you can ask that veteran, what did you learn? What did you bring back from that struggle you went through, the thing you learned? What would benefit our society? What would benefit me from what you went through? Because these soldiers went through an experience that is so tough, so horrific, that no civilian should ever have to go through. That's why the veterans went through it. Mm-hmm. But they can bring back something to benefit our society. You see it with Eisenhower, you see it with McCain, you see it with those who have served. They brought back something major and something important for our society. And you can ask them the question, what story, what experience do you bring back that will help us in this life? And then you're honoring the sacrifice they made, because they came back with something to benefit our society. And that's what makes a hero. Mm-hmm. They're ordinary people like you and I, but they went through an extraordinary, tough experience, and they have something to offer us.
Well, we can start by understanding your story, which we will see this weekend with San Diego Union-Tribune and all your great reporting and photography and videography as well. So we look forward to that. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And again, our blessing 1958 at Gmail.
At Gmail.
People can reach out to you if they need help. Very good. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Howard. You can read more about all today's top stories on San Diego Union-Tribune.com, and of course this story this weekend that will officially come out on Sunday, but other parts, as you said, Howard, will come out over the weekend as well.